In the quiet heart of a bustling city park, a sudden storm broke without warning, turning the sunny afternoon into a tempestuous battle of wind and rain. The trees bent under the force of the storm, as the sky darkened with heavy swirling clouds. Amidst the chaos, a small frightened squirrel darted frantically, seeking shelter from the pounding rain. His tiny paws slipped on wet leaves as he hurried towards a storm drain, hoping it would offer refuge. Unbeknownst to him, the storm drain's cover had shifted slightly, leaving a perilous gap. The squirrel slipped and fell inside, trapped by slick, steep concrete walls and rising water. His desperate chirps echoed faintly beneath the street. Nearby, a passerby noticed the frantic movement and the distressed animal's cries. Sarah, a young woman in her early 30s with kind eyes and a rain-soaked jacket, knelt by the drain, calling softly, "Hang on, little one, help is coming." Her heart pounded as the water level began to rise. She dialed emergency animal rescue, praying the operators would arrive quickly. The storm's roar drowned out everything except the squirrel's sharp, frightened squeaks and Sarah's steady voice. Time was running out, and the rescue was just beginning. Sarah's voice trembled as she spoke to the rescue operator. "There's a squirrel trapped in a storm drain, and the water is rising fast. Please, send help quickly." Her gaze never left the dark opening, where the frantic sounds of the squirrel echoed. Around her, the park emptied as people scrambled for shelter, their hurried footsteps and umbrellas creating a chaotic symphony. The storm's fury intensified. Thunder cracked above, and the rain hammered down harder than ever. Sarah felt a rush of helplessness but refused to abandon the tiny life below. She scanned the street for anything to aid her rescue attempt, her mind racing through possibilities. Her heart pounded as she whispered, "Hold on, little one. We're coming." The tension was palpable. Every second felt like an eternity as the squirrel's cries grew weaker. The city around them blurred into a background of rain and noise, a sharp contrast to the urgent connection between rescuer and creature. As minutes stretched on, Sarah searched for anything nearby that might help pry open the grate or reach the squirrel. A park maintenance worker hurried through the rain, carrying tools and wearing a high-visibility vest. Sarah called out, "Please, can you help? A squirrel is trapped and the water is rising." The worker paused, his face set in grim determination as he hurried over. Together, they inspected the grate, noting the rusted hinges and slippery edges. The rain blurred their vision but sharpened their resolve. The worker retrieved a crowbar from his kit, glancing at Sarah and nodding. "We don't have much time. Let's try to lift it carefully." The tension was thick, the storm roaring louder around them as the first flickers of lightning illuminated the scene. The rescue had officially begun. With a heave, the crowbar slipped beneath the grate's edge. The metal groaned and shifted slightly, revealing the shadowy depths below. Sarah's breath caught as she leaned closer, peering into the dark opening. She could just make out the squirrel's tiny, soaked figure huddled against the concrete wall, eyes wide with exhaustion and fear. The water had risen dangerously high now, and the animal trembled uncontrollably. Sarah whispered urgently, "We're here, little one. Just hold on." The worker steadied the grate, sweat mixing with rain on his brow as he strained against the weight. Thunder rumbled overhead, and the wind howled as the storm showed no signs of relenting. It was a race against time and nature itself. The moment the grate shifted, a surge of water splashed out, chilling Sarah's face. The squirrel flinched but did not flee, trapped and exhausted. Sarah quickly reached down, her hand trembling as she extended it toward the fragile creature. "It's okay, I'm here," she said softly, voice firm but gentle. The squirrel hesitated, eyes locked on her, sensing hope amidst the storm. Slowly it edged closer, trembling but trusting. Outside, the storm continued its relentless assault, but in that fleeting moment, a fragile bond formed between human and animal. The rescue had begun, but the path to safety was still fraught with danger. Sarah's heart surged with hope and fear alike as she prepared to lift the little life from the storm's grasp. Sarah's heart pounded fiercely as she carefully scooped the trembling squirrel into her rain-drenched hands. The storm's fury still raged around them, rain pelting her jacket and slick pavement. She whispered soothing words. "You're safe now, little one, just hold on." The squirrel, soaked and shivering, curled into a tight ball, its tiny chest rising and falling rapidly. Nearby, the park worker grabbed a warm towel from his truck, drenched himself as he handed it to Sarah. With gentle motions, she wrapped the fragile creature, sheltering it from the storm's chill. Her eyes scanned the darkening sky, knowing help was on the way but uncertain how long they had. Each second felt precious as she monitored the squirrel's rapid breaths and quivering frame. Around them, the city's usual sounds were muffled by the relentless rain, creating a cocoon of tension and hope. Sarah's resolve hardened. She would not let this little life slip away. Not tonight. The emergency rescue team arrived in a flurry of activity, their van lights flashing through the downpour. 2 rescuers, a man and a woman both in their late 30s, jumped out wearing waterproof gear and heavy boots. Sarah handed over the squirrel, explaining the situation quickly. The woman, calm but focused, examined the tiny creature, noting its soaked fur and trembling limbs. The man radioed for a nearby wildlife vet, emphasizing the urgency. As the rescuers prepared a warm transport box lined with soft cloth, Sarah felt a mix of relief and anxiety. This was only the beginning. The storm's wrath still loomed, and the squirrel's fragile condition demanded immediate care. The team worked swiftly but carefully, moving with practiced precision. Sarah stayed close, her voice steady but soft, encouraging the tiny survivor to hang on. The city's rain-slick streets blurred behind them, the storm's echo a constant reminder of the stakes. Inside the rescue van, the squirrel was gently placed in a cozy warm box, lined with fleece. The female rescuer murmured softly, "We'll get you warmed up and checked out soon." Sarah watched anxiously as the van prepared to move. Outside, the storm showed no signs of abating. Lightning cracked, illuminating the soaked park in stark flashes. The rescuers exchanged determined looks, understanding the narrow window for the squirrel's survival. Sarah's mind raced with questions. What if the little animal had injuries? What if the cold had done irreversible damage? But hope glimmered as the team promised to do everything possible. The van's doors closed, rain cascading off the roof, muffling the sounds within. Sarah took a deep breath, the storm still howling, but feeling a fragile calm inside. The rescue was underway, and the story was far from over. The van sped through rain-slick streets toward the wildlife vet clinic, its tires splashing through puddles under flickering streetlights. Sarah followed closely in her car, phone pressed to her ear as she spoke urgently with the vet's assistant. "We have a hypothermic squirrel trapped in a storm drain. It needs warming and urgent care." Her voice was steady despite the fear gnawing at her. At the clinic, staff readied warming pads, fluids, and monitoring equipment. The vet prepared to assess the tiny patient, knowing that every detail mattered. Sarah's hands trembled as she awaited news, the storm's distant thunder a grim reminder of the fight against time. The clinic was a beacon of hope amid the relentless storm outside. Each second ticked by with the weight of life and death, a fragile thread connecting them all. At the wildlife vet clinic, the squirrel was immediately examined under bright clinical lights. The vet, a woman in her early 40s with gentle eyes and a focused expression, carefully checked for injuries and signs of hypothermia. Monitors beeped softly as the squirrel was warmed with heat pads and given fluids through a tiny catheter. Sarah stood nearby, biting her lip, watching every detail, praying silently. The vet explained the risks: shock, dehydration, and infection, but also the hope for recovery if treatment was swift and thorough. Outside, the storm's fury began to subside, the rain easing to a soft drizzle. Inside, a fragile calm took hold, but the battle was far from over. Sarah whispered, "You're safe now. We won't give up on you." The tiny creature, exhausted but alive, blinked slowly as the first rays of dawn crept through the clinic window. As dawn broke, the clinic was quiet except for the soft hum of medical machines and distant birdsong outside. The vet, Dr. Emily Hart, a compassionate woman in her early 40s, reviewed the squirrel's chart carefully. The little creature's vital signs were fragile but stable, a victory given the storm's assault. Emily explained to Sarah, who stood close by, "The hypothermia is severe, and there's mild dehydration, but the lungs and limbs look good so far. We must keep him warm and hydrated." Sarah nodded, relief washing over her yet tempered by cautious hope. Outside, early morning light filtered through tall clinic windows, casting long shadows. The storm had passed, but the battle for the squirrel's full recovery was just beginning. The fragile silence was charged with promise and worry alike as Sarah whispered, "You're a fighter, little one. We'll get you through this." Hours passed as the squirrel rested, wrapped in warmth and gentle care. Sarah stayed nearby, reading quietly and speaking softly when the squirrel stirred. Dr. Hart administered fluids through a tiny catheter, explaining, "This will help rehydrate and stabilize him." Sarah observed the delicate procedure, her emotions a mix of hope and fear. Outside the clinic, birds began to chirp louder, signaling a new day free from storm clouds. Yet the tiny squirrel's journey was uncertain. Trauma and stress could cause setbacks. Each small breath and twitch of movement was a precious sign of life. Sarah whispered encouragement, feeling a bond growing stronger. "We'll get you back home safe and well," she promised quietly. The clinic, once a place of emergency, now felt like a sanctuary of healing. Later that afternoon, Sarah was allowed to hold the squirrel gently under Dr. Hart's supervision. The squirrel's tiny body was still fragile, but it nuzzled Sarah's fingers, a small sign of trust. Sarah's eyes welled with tears, overcome by the fragile miracle before her. Dr. Hart smiled gently. "This is a good sign. It means he's responding to care." They talked quietly about the next steps, monitoring for infection, ensuring the squirrel regained strength before release. Sarah's hope blossomed, but she knew patience was vital. Outside, golden sunlight spilled through the clinic windows, creating a warm glow that contrasted with the storm's memories. The rescue had saved a life, but now the real test began: rehabilitation and trust. The tiny squirrel's future was still unwritten, but for now, the moment was filled with fragile joy and cautious optimism. As evening approached, the clinic's atmosphere softened. The squirrel rested peacefully on a soft blanket, breathing steadily. Sarah sat nearby, her hand resting gently on the edge of the enclosure, whispering words of comfort. Dr. Hart reviewed the treatment plan with quiet determination. "We'll keep him overnight for observation, but progress is promising. With time, he should regain strength." Sarah nodded, exhaustion creeping in but replaced by gratitude. Outside, the sky darkened with twilight hues, stars beginning to twinkle faintly. The storm had passed, but the journey to healing stretched ahead. Sarah's heart held a quiet hope. This small life, once so fragile, was beginning to fight back. Clinic was a haven where human compassion met nature's resilience, a place where miracles, no matter how small, were possible. Night fell quietly, and the clinic's lights dimmed to a gentle glow. Sarah rested in a chair nearby, eyes heavy but heart full. The squirrel slept peacefully, its tiny chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. Dr. Hart performed final checks, whispering to the quiet room, "Tomorrow will tell us more." The silence was profound but filled with the weight of hope and uncertainty. Outside, the city slept beneath a sky clearing of clouds, a soft breeze rustling leaves. Sarah closed her eyes, whispering a promise to the small life she had fought for. "We're in this together." The rescue had saved the squirrel's life, but their story was only just beginning, an unfolding tale of trust, healing, and second chances. Morning light filtered softly through the vet clinic's windows, casting gentle beams over the room where the squirrel rested. Sarah arrived early, her face lined with hopeful anticipation. Dr. Hart greeted her with a calm smile, saying, "He's responding well, more alert and steady on his feet." The tiny squirrel stirred, blinking slowly, a spark of life returning to its eyes. Sarah's heart soared with cautious optimism, yet she knew recovery was delicate. The vet explained that the next days would be crucial for monitoring nutrition and mobility. Outside, birds sang a cheerful melody, signaling a fresh start after the storm's chaos. Sarah whispered to the little survivor, "You're stronger than the storm. We'll keep going, step by step." The clinic felt alive with promise, a place where healing and hope intertwined. Throughout the day, Sarah observed the squirrel's slow but steady progress. The tiny creature began to move with more confidence, stretching small limbs and exploring its enclosure cautiously. Dr. Hart showed Sarah how to gently feed the squirrel using a syringe, emphasizing patience and care. "It's important not to overwhelm him," she explained. "Each small step builds strength and trust." Sarah's hands trembled slightly, but grew steadier as she coaxed the squirrel with soft words. The clinic's atmosphere was quiet yet filled with purpose. A sanctuary for recovery amid a recovering world. Outside, the sun broke through scattered clouds, casting dappled light on the clinic's garden. The promise of renewal was tangible, mirrored in the tiny life regaining vitality. As afternoon shadows lengthened, Sarah grew more confident, handling the squirrel. The tiny creature had gained slight weight and responded to gentle touches without fear. Dr. Hart encouraged Sarah, "Your calm presence helps more than you know." Sarah smiled, feeling a profound bond growing stronger. They discussed plans for the squirrel's eventual return to the wild, stressing careful observation to ensure full recovery. The outside world called with its vibrant colors and sounds, but the clinic remained a place of healing and preparation. Sarah whispered, "We're almost ready for you to go home, little one." The fragile trust between human and animal blossomed like a quiet promise, a testament to compassion and resilience. That evening, Sarah and Dr. Hart prepared the enclosure for the squirrel's next phase, short, supervised time outside the clinic. Sarah arranged natural branches, leaves, and soft moss to mimic the squirrel's natural habitat. Dr. Hart explained, "Exposure to the outdoors helps rebuild strength and instincts before release." The squirrel watched curiously, eyes bright with cautious curiosity. Sarah's heart swelled as she imagined the little animal returning to the wild. Outside, twilight painted the sky in pink and purple hues, a serene close to a challenging journey. The clinic felt like a bridge between two worlds, one of care, the other of freedom. Sarah whispered softly, "We're getting closer, little fighter." Night fell with a quiet calm, the clinic softly illuminated by warm lamps. The squirrel curled up among the natural bedding, its breathing steady and relaxed. Sarah sat nearby, reflecting on the journey from storm drain to sanctuary. Dr. Hart reassured her, "He's strong, but we must remain patient. Nature heals in its own time." Outside, stars twinkled softly in a clear sky, a silent witness to the resilience below. Sarah whispered a final promise for the night. "Rest well, little one. Tomorrow brings new hope." The bond between rescuer and rescued deepened in the quiet night, a testament to courage, care, and the enduring will to survive. The next morning brought fresh hope as Sarah arrived at the clinic with a soft smile. The squirrel was more alert, moving carefully inside its enclosure. Dr. Hart greeted her warmly, saying, "He's gaining strength steadily. His reflexes are improving, and he's starting to explore more." Sarah's heart lifted at the progress, though she knew the road ahead remained long. The vet emphasized the importance of continued care and cautious optimism. Outside, gentle sunlight bathed the clinic garden in golden hues, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers. Sarah whispered encouraging words to the tiny survivor, "You've come so far, little one. Keep fighting." The clinic felt alive with quiet determination and the promise of healing. Throughout the day, Sarah and Dr. Hart worked together to gradually introduce natural elements into the squirrel's environment. Small branches, leaves, and soft moss created a mini habitat, encouraging movement and exploration. Sarah carefully observed the squirrel's reactions, noting each cautious step and curious sniff. Dr. Hart explained, "These familiar textures and scents stimulate instincts and aid recovery." The squirrel's eyes sparkled with curiosity, a far cry from the frightened creature rescued from the storm drain. Sarah's patience and dedication were rewarded as the tiny animal showed signs of regaining trust and confidence. The clinic became a bridge between captivity and freedom, a sanctuary nurturing resilience. As afternoon shadows lengthened, Sarah gently held the squirrel in her hands, feeling its tiny heartbeat steady beneath her palm. Dr. Hart encouraged her, "Your calm touch helps him heal. Emotional bonds matter as much as medical care." Sarah's eyes filled with tears of gratitude and love. They spoke quietly about the final stages of rehabilitation and preparing for release. The squirrel, once fragile and fearful, was now growing stronger with each day. Outside, the clinic garden swayed softly in a gentle breeze, sunlight dappling through leaves. Sarah whispered softly, "We'll get you home soon, where you belong." The rescue was no longer just about survival. It was about restoring a life to its rightful place. That evening, Sarah and Dr. Hart prepared the final steps for the squirrel's return to nature. A small outdoor enclosure was readied with natural foliage, fresh water, and food. Sarah carefully placed the squirrel inside, watching as it cautiously explored this new space. Dr. Hart reminded her, "Supervised outdoor exposure builds strength and confidence for a safe release." The setting sun bathed the scene in warm amber, casting long shadows and illuminating hopeful faces. Sarah felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Soon the little survivor would leave the safety of human care for the wild unknown. The clinic had become a place of transformation, where life was carefully nurtured back to freedom. Night fell with quiet serenity over the clinic's garden. The squirrel settled among the natural foliage, its breathing calm and steady. Sarah sat nearby, eyes shining with a mix of pride and bittersweet emotion. Dr. Hart quietly noted, "He's ready for the next phase, full release soon." Outside, stars twinkled in a clear sky, a silent witness to the journey from peril to promise. Sarah whispered a gentle farewell, "You're free now, little one. Fly safe." The rescue had transformed into a story of hope, resilience, and the enduring bond between human and nature. In that still night, the clinic stood as a beacon of compassion, where even the smallest lives were treasured and given second chances. The morning air was crisp and fresh as Sarah arrived at the clinic, anticipation buzzing through her veins. Today marked the first full day of the squirrel's outdoor rehabilitation. Dr. Hart explained, "This exposure is vital for rebuilding his natural instincts, climbing, foraging, and navigating." The squirrel, now noticeably stronger, explored the enclosure with cautious confidence. Sarah watched intently, noting every twitch of its nose and flick of its tail. The sun cast soft shadows, illuminating the vibrant greens and browns of the enclosure. This phase was crucial for the transition back to the wild. Sarah whispered, "You're doing great, little one. Almost ready for the big world again." The clinic garden buzzed with new life, hope blooming in every corner. Throughout the day, Sarah and Dr. Hart carefully observed the squirrel's growing agility and confidence. The little creature began to leap between branches, testing its balance with increasing skill. Sarah encouraged gently, "Take your time, you're safe here." The vet noted subtle improvements in strength and alertness, vital for survival in the wild. They introduced natural food items to stimulate foraging behavior. Each small success sparked joy and relief. Outside, birds flitted among trees, the clinic garden alive with vibrant colors and sounds. The delicate dance of healing continued, a testament to resilience and care. Sarah smiled, feeling the bittersweet weight of impending release. As afternoon shadows stretched, Sarah held the squirrel gently, feeling its steady heartbeat and warm fur. Dr. Hart remarked, "The emotional bond you've built is remarkable. It aids healing." Sarah's eyes shimmered with tears of joy and sadness intertwined. They discussed the release plan carefully, balancing eagerness with caution. The squirrel's journey from storm-drained captivity to near freedom was nothing short of miraculous. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues through swaying leaves. Sarah whispered softly, "We'll get you home soon, where you belong." The weight of responsibility and hope mingled in her heart, a quiet promise to honor this fragile life. That evening, preparations for release were underway. Sarah and Dr. Hart packed a small transport box with soft bedding and natural materials. The squirrel was calm but alert, sensing the change. The vet instructed Sarah on the release process, emphasizing the importance of a safe and familiar location. Sarah's thoughts raced between excitement and nerves. Would the squirrel adapt successfully? Outside, twilight painted the sky with pinks and purples, a quiet promise of new beginnings. The clinic garden stood as a bridge between sanctuary and wilderness. Sarah whispered, "Tomorrow, freedom awaits you." The journey was far from over, but hope shone bright in the fading light. Night settled softly over the clinic as Sarah sat quietly beside the sleeping squirrel in its transport box. The journey from peril to promise had been long and challenging, yet here lay a fragile life ready to return home. Dr. Hart's voice was gentle as she reassured Sarah, "You've given him the best chance." Outside, stars glittered in a clear sky, a silent testament to resilience and hope. Sarah whispered a final vow, "Fly free, little one. We'll never forget you." The clinic's warm glow was a beacon of compassion, a place where even the smallest beings find strength and second chances. The story was approaching its climax, a return to nature, a homecoming, and the enduring power of kindness. The dawn was crisp and quiet. As Sarah drove to the release site, a small wooded area near the park where the squirrel was first found. The morning mist clung to the trees, softening the golden sunlight. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she carried the transport box, her heart heavy with hope and anxiety. Dr. Hart joined her, offering steady reassurance. "This is the best place," she said gently. Sarah nodded, scanning the familiar surroundings, imagining the little squirrel scurrying freely among the branches. The time had come. Sarah whispered softly, "You're ready. Go find your home." The peaceful forest seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of the fragile miracle about to take flight. At the release spot, Sarah carefully opened the box. The squirrel hesitated briefly, blinking up at her with curious eyes. Then, with a tentative leap, it scrambled onto a low branch. Sarah held her breath as the tiny creature paused, then began to explore, sniffing leaves and twitching its tail. Dr. Hart smiled softly. He remembers this place. It's in his instincts. The morning sun warmed the forest floor, dappled light shifting as birds fluttered overhead. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she watched the squirrel take its first steps toward freedom. The rescue had come full circle. A life once trapped was now truly free. The squirrel moved with increasing confidence, darting from branch to branch, its tail flicking in rhythm with the gentle breeze. Sarah and Dr. Hart stayed quiet, allowing the animal space to reacclimate. Sarah whispered, "Go on, little one. We'll always remember you." A sense of bittersweet joy washed over her. The storm drain was a distant memory now, replaced by the promise of new beginnings. As the squirrel disappeared deeper into the canopy, Sarah felt a wave of peace and fulfillment. The rescue was a testament to resilience, compassion, and the enduring bond between humans and the wild. The forest seemed to embrace the tiny life as one of its own again. As the day deepened, Sarah and Dr. Hart walked slowly back through the woods, their hearts lighter but still tender with the memory of the journey. Sarah reflected aloud, "It's incredible how something so small can teach us so much about hope and determination." Dr. Hart nodded. "Every rescue is a reminder of the fragile beauty of life, and our duty to protect it." The forest rustled softly around them, sunlight filtering through the leaves in golden shafts. The storm had tested them all, but compassion had triumphed. Sarah's steps were steady, her spirit renewed. The rescue was complete, but the story would linger, an inspiring testament to courage and care. In the final moments, the forest grew quiet except for the soft rustle of leaves and distant bird calls. The last image of the squirrel, a tiny shadow darting effortlessly among the branches, lingered in Sarah's mind. She whispered a heartfelt goodbye. "Thank you for fighting, little one. You've given us all hope." Dr. Hart placed a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder, sharing the silent understanding of a journey's end and a new beginning. The story closed not with an ending but with a promise that every life matters, no matter how small. The storm had passed, but the memory of courage, kindness, and survival would echo forever in their hearts.